After 7 long years of development, Hollow Knight Silksong is finally released, and is truly amazing. So as an inspiring, self-proclaimed game developer, I thought it would be fun to try and recreate Silksong, but in 3D. However, I don't want to spend over 7 years remaking the entire game. Instead, I'll just be remaking the 4th chorus boss battle, which is one of the earlier bosses in Silksong. Because I really enjoy the concept of fighting a giant towering robot, where the stage slowly gets destroyed. So I began by modeling Hornet in Blender, and after a couple of hours, I was happy with how it turned out. Now in the actual game, Hornet has an insane amount of animation, but I only needed to make a few of them, such as the idle animation, jumping, falling, walking, dashing, dash jumping, attacking, dash attacking, and a couple more that I'll show later. Also, when Hornet moves, it looks like a cloak is spinning around. So my solution was to rotate the cloak directly through code, and let's see how it turns out. Now that it's properly working, I began working on getting the movement and mechanics of the game. I created 2 attack animation, because having only 1 attack animation made it feel more robotic and less natural. And depending on the direction in which Hornet attacks, if she attacks downwards... Actually, give me a second. If Hornet attacks downwards, she will perform her infamous attack. And in Silksong, each time Hornet attacks an enemy, she will build up a silk meter, which can be either used to unleash powerful skills or to regain her health, if performed uninterrupted. So I recreated her silk spear skill, although it looks quite bad, but by adding post-processing and particle effects, as well as some camera shake to make it harder to see. Now, it only looks slightly bad. Whereas for the healing animation, Hornet heals herself by binding her wounds with silk. I remade the encircling silk effect by using splines and Unity's line trail system, and by using spline animate, it creates a pretty decent animation. Furthermore, just prior to fighting 4th chorus, Hornet also unlocks the ability to hover in air, by puffing up her cloak like an umbrella. Mary Poppins style. Which was pretty easy to animate by simply adding another toggleable model. But right now, there's nothing for Hornet to unleash her fury upon. So I got working on creating the model of 4th chorus. But since the original sprite didn't really show what 4th chorus would look like from behind, and I'm not really that artistic or imaginative, so it ended up looking like a basketball. And it kinda looks like a ball. Anyways, I imported my rough model of 4th chorus into the game, and it looks pretty good. In the boss fight, the only attackable part of 4th chorus is his head. Since 4th chorus is so tall, Hornet will always be required to jump and slash upwards in order to damage the boss. However, having vertical directional attacks doesn't really translate well into a 3D game, as inputting up and down in 2D can sometimes be interpreted as forward or backwards in 3D. Therefore, more buttons would have been required to register attacking upwards or downwards. However, I believe having more buttons in this case would make things more confusing and less fun. So to simplify things whilst retaining the fun and feel of Silksong, I designed it so that whilst Hornet is in the air, her attacks will automatically angle itself towards 4th chorus's head. When I was developing the stage, I was inspired by several other games where they would have a circular arena. Furthermore, during development, I realized that it was kinda difficult to tell where you would land, but by using a technique called blob shadow, which ignores real lighting and it always stays directly under the player character. That way it helps player better determine where they would land. 4th chorus initially has 2 primary attacks, which includes a slam attack, where it raises upper arm above the player before attempting to squash Hornet, which can potentially destroy up to 2 of the platforms in the arena, or a swipe attack, which it uses its lower arms to sweep across the entire arena. After dealing a certain amount of damage, 4th chorus will enter its second phase, which it will not only attack faster, but also gain a new attack, where it will slam the top of the arena multiple times, causing multiple molten rocks to fall down across the stage. And after the 3rd time it's staggered, it roars again after rising, which destroys some of the outer platforms, creating 2 updrafts in their place. Optionally, by riding these updrafts, it allows Hornet to reach these 2 explosive rocks embedded in the ceiling. Hitting both of them causes a massive boulder to drop onto 4th chorus's head, instantly killing it and ending the fight. Now in the original fight, since it is in 2D, it is easier to tell distance and if you're close enough to hit them, but depth and distance are a lot more difficult to tell in 3D, especially in the air. So a blob shadow is going to be really helpful in this situation, unless we had a horrid camera angle. Anyways, the solution I came up with was to create a shader which would glow if the player is close enough to attack the object. And as I made more progress to the game, I also noticed that it was kind of pointless implementing the dash, as you'll most likely dash into the lava unless you ran in a perfect circle. However, in order to move in a perfect circle, you would have to move diagonally at the perfect angle. Also, that angle would change depending on how fast you were moving. Now I tried several ideas trying to solve this problem by using centripetal acceleration to calculate the exact movement vector relative to the speed and distance to the center, but that didn't work as the exact angle changed every frame since it needs to be relative to the Hornet, whose forward vector is constantly shifting along the tangent of the circular path. So there I was, desperately trying to engineer a solution, whilst madly spinning around my chair, when an epiphany struck. Instead of Hornet moving around the stage, the world would rotate around Hornet! I'm not insane. So Hornet would be locked horizontally by disabling the X position in rigid body, and the stage would rotate around, creating a sense of motion. That way you can just hold left or right, and you will always move in a perfect circle. Whoops, wrong way. And there we go, a perfect circle. After solving that minor inconvenience, I did some final polishing, messed with some of the variables, and probably added a nicer looking HUD. Overall, this project took me about 2 months to make, and I really only made less than 0.1% of Silksong. Honestly, I'm just absolutely blown away at just how massive and stunning looking this game is, and it was only made by 3 people in 7 years. Anyways, thanks for watching up to this point. Here's the final result. So if you made it to the end, feel free to try out the game yourself in the description, and I will see you next time.